What is up, guys? It is your boy Thriller here, and we are here for the Week 4 matchup, taking on Coach Slinth, Scythe. I don't really know how his name is supposed to be pronounced. I apologize. But we are taking on him this week in pretty much win out or no playoffs. And I quite literally mean that. We literally would have to win out to make playoffs. If we do not win out, we do not make playoffs no matter what because our differential is so unbelievably bad that 4-4, unless we get really lucky with diff, is not going to matter. So we pretty much have to win out to guarantee our playoffs at this point. And I have decided to play out the rest of the season. You guys did check out the last video. I did contemplate on quitting the league because of just how it was going and just I wasn't enjoying it. I am going to be a committed player and I am going to make sure I do play these games and I'm going to push myself to play, even though I feel not the greatest with it. So we're gonna try our best. We're gonna try our best to at least pick up one win this season. We have a pretty decent chance this week. I think every game we've actually had. I think every game but one I knew was gonna be a rough game. But I think every game besides that one, which I think might have been actually Kaz or Ari, it was one of the two. I don't remember which one. I think was the one there and there, but I think we've actually had pretty good chances to win almost every single game we've had so far. And this will be no difference. But we're taking on I'm just gonna call you Slit Scythe. So if you don't like that, I just apologize. But I'm just gonna call you Scythe just to make it more easier for me. Scythe's team is Dark Manitan with the abilities Airlock and Sword of Ruin, Kilowattrel with Primordial Sea and Refrigerate, Hippowdon with Fluffy and Sap Sipper, a Tentacruel with Scrappy and Vessel of Ruin, a Duraludon with Magic Guard and Tablets of Ruin, a Hatterene with the abilities Regenerator and Prankster, a Mega Absol, which prior to Mega Evolution can have Shadow Shield or Intimidate. Most likely, Intimidate's the only ability you're going to see on that Pokemon, let's be honest. Because Shadow Shield, even though you have to Mega first turn, um, yeah, don't know about that, Chief. Hitmonchan with Technician Adaptability, Galvanize and Beads of Ruin, Glaceon, and a Grassy Surge into Thick Fat Go-Go. So, looking at my opponent's team there, I think maybe one or two Pokemon I think guaranteed do not show up this matchup. I think the number one one that's definitely not going to show up this matchup is going to be Go-Goat. I think Go-Goat does not have a great matchup whatsoever into my team. I think Go-Goat can be a bring, but I don't really think it makes a ton of sense versus my roster. I think it doesn't really do much in the grand scheme of things, and I just think it's a Pokemon that doesn't show up. If it does come, I think it's forced to be pick fat for this matchup for that specific reason. Another Pokemon that I think does not show up is Hippowdon. Now, Hippowdon I'm tossed and turned with because Hippowdon has still a decent enough matchup to check a lot of things. The problem is, again, is like the whole thing with Tyranitar. This mon is forced to be fluffy. He cannot run Sap Sipper. And regardless, I think based off the team they have, I think they're going to feel confident enough to know that my Rillaboom is not going to show up this matchup. So I definitely do think they're going to bring Fluffy if that is the case. Now, this mon plus the other two that I'm going to talk about are all very much so possibilities that could be showing up in my opponent's roster. But the main reason why I think maybe we will not see Hippowdon is that I have Galarian Weezing that can just cripple it and I can just 1v1 it in terms of stalling. Magmar actually beats it, which is pretty funny unless it comes out on a free switch in. Flygon, if I go special with it, actually beats it 1v1. Fortress, for the most part, should always beat it 1v1 unless it's a whirlwind build. Rillaboom actually beat it if it's not Sap Sipper. Jolteon actually just beats it. Starmie beats it. Torn beats it. Like, I think there's a lot of things I have done. Now, again, I will not be surprised to see a Fluffy Hippowdon versus us, but I do think it's not that great of a mon into the matchup itself, in my opinion. I don't think it's that good of a mon in this matchup. But again, would not be surprised if it did show up. Another mon that I think has a likelihood to show up, but maybe will just barely miss out on being seen, is going to be Tentacruel. Tentacruel, obviously, if it comes, it's Vessel of Ruin. I think there's no reason to ever bring Scrappy into us, like ever. Also, I think Scrappy, just for the sake of being able to skin as a spin every time, is a little weird. But I understand why, but still. Um, I think Tentacruel can match up decently well into things like Fortress, even to things like, low kicks, Lycanroc to an extent, Weezing to an extent, Magmar. Rillaboom, decent options there, but I just don't think it can be able to counteract a lot of the things I have. And I think it's forced into a lot of variations. Like I think AV sets make a lot of sense here versus me. I think like obviously a Shukaberry, Boots, AV, just a lot of variations of what it could be into the matchup. So definitely something I think doesn't show up, but I will not be surprised if it did show up. And then this is a mon that definitely comes over one of the others, possibly, and that is going to be Hitmonchan. Hitmonchan, I think, is just barely like 1% less than the six mon that I'm going to predict my opponent to have. Now that six mon can easily be replaced with Hitmonchan. I think Hitmonchan's technician ability is going to be really hard for my team to really switch into. I think Mach Punch with Bullet Punch has to come versus me. Bullet Punch so that way he can be able to hit my Galarian Weezing for boosted off damage. Unless he feels confident, he can be able to not run that. Otherwise, excuse me. Otherwise, I really do think we can be able to counteract a lot of things here with the options of that. But Technician Mach Punch, though, is going to hit really hard versus our team. Don't have a ton of great fighting switches. And plus, once our monster again weakened down, if it's baited my Hitmonchan, I pretty much will 1 to 2 shot everything I have if that's already weakened or not. So definitely something to kind of note from there, but I do think it's still a very good mon in the matchup. And like I said, he can easily show up into this matchup. Now, the six I expect him to bring, I definitely think he's going to bring the Darmanitan. I'm actually expecting Airlock Darmanitan. And let me explain why I'm expecting Airlock. I expect Airlock because he wants to shut down my Primordial Sea. Because if you look at his team, Starmie does go insane into this team. And I think he's forced into being like, okay, I gotta make sure you can't have your Starmie be that boosted in power. I gotta make sure I try to shut it down in terms of not being able to do much. So I think he's forced to bring Airlock. Now I wouldn't be surprised to see Sword of Ruin because Sword of Ruin Darmanitan will hit like a freaking freight train. But I will think our Airlock makes the most sense in Nimby. Like I said, I will not be surprised if we see Sword of Ruin, but Airlock is what I'm locking in. And I also think just Darmanitan in general hits insanely hard into my team, and I don't have the best switch-ins. I do think, however, it is forced to be Scarf this matchup, which is really good for us. And then if we can kind of play around that, we can do really well with it. Up next is Kilowattrel. I think Primordial Sea obviously makes the most sense here. I could see a case for Refrigerate, but looking at my team, I don't think we really need it when you have the combination of Electric Flying and me using Weather Ball to hit Flygon. But literally, Electric Flying is all you really need in my team. Weather Ball is just really nice to have there for maybe something like a Magmar that's fluffy, a Lycanroc if you don't want to risk going for a Thunder and hopefully not killing or anything like that. Kilowattrel's interesting in this matchup. I could definitely see Specs. Specs has a fair shot. Like I don't have a ton of great flying resist, and those flying resists get two shotted potentially by two Specs Hurricanes. So I also could see Scarf. Scarf's also another fair bring on this Pokemon as well, but I don't think he really wants to waste Scarf on it. I think this is going to be potentially Boost, Specs, or maybe like a boosted item like a Sharp Beak or something like that. So overall, though, I think Kilowattrel can do really well in this matchup versus us, and I don't think we have a lot of ways around it. Up next is Duraludon. I think Duraludon easily comes. It's dual typing with the Violate with the Tablets of Ruin, especially with a team of mine that definitely comes off more physically offensive than it necessarily comes off as. This is going to be a mon to be difficult for us to defend. I think this is going to be his defensive check on the defensive side against us because this is a mon that can just really just eat up hits for us. And plus, if this mon has Iron Defense, we're not going to be able to break through this Pokemon. So, really, a Pokemon that I think my opponent has to really be forced to bring here. There is even the option to run something like a Scarf Magic Guard build. There's even forces of doing something like that. But I do think Duraludon is going to force in this instance. But then, even then, Duraludon could have even swapped out for Hitmonchan possibly instead of the 6 mon that we're talking about. Next mon we're talking about is Hatterene. I think Regenerator Hatterene makes a lot of sense. Prankster's only really good if he wants to breed screens on this build, or if he really wants a Healing Wish option if this thing's going to live potentially. But I think Regen makes a lot of sense here. I think Hatterene has to come in order to kind of keep some things in check. Obviously, not letting Flygon spam Dragon type moves, which is really important for him here in this matchup since he has no resistance dragon outside of that. Really wish I was Dragon Balls on my Flygon right now. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I think also having it to kind of have nuzzle strats and stuff like that, and also to take some hits from the special side of my team. Overall, I think Hatterene is kind of almost forced into this matchup, and I think it's going to be quite hard for Hatterene to want to keep things in check. But I think it makes a lot of sense for Brock. Obviously, Intimidating on regular Absol is going to be a 1000% the ability here. Mega Absol in general isn't going to be insanely hard for us. It outspeeds pretty much everything on my team. It speed ties with Starmie, which I think is going to be forced to run max speed. And I actually am taking a little bit of a risk with the bring I am going with because of said reason. But the thing is, I'm expecting him to run Sucker Punch on this Absol, guaranteed. So I'm still fine with my strat, regardless of what he does. But Absol's definitely an annoying mon, definitely when it comes out. And here's the thing too: if he keeps the mon in, he has to mega first turn. He could keep this mon going, cycling back and forth, but he's taking a risk doing that though. He's taking a really big risk doing that because again, if he gets that wrong intimidating on a different Pokemon that he needs it to be on, that could be a little problematic for him. So I think he's gonna be very careful with when he megas this thing. Obviously, I think if it kept its mega with Shadow Shield, I think that would be really good for it. But sadly, it won't. But and the last Pokemon I'm expecting to be brought is Glaceon. And let me look at my team. Bolt Beam does insanely well. There's only one Pokemon on my team that can handle both of that to an extent, and that is going to be Magmar from the defensive side of things. But otherwise, I can't really do it. I can also see an option for Beads of Ruin. Beads of Ruin make a ton of sense, as well as it's a really good offensive Pokemon. I do think if this thing comes, it's either Specs or Choice Scarf. I think there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's nothing else this Pokemon can really do into the matchup besides that. But I wouldn't be surprised to see something maybe like a little bit of a mini trick room mode with that thing as well. I could also see a potential variation where he might try to get in and go for like a free sub and try to get a guaranteed like good chunk off of me, force me to KO him type of thing, um, something like that, or maybe like a sub calm mind variation of some sorts, possibly. Who knows? But overall, I think Coliseum does really well into one matchup here. But that is going to be my opponent's team. Like I said, I am expecting him to bring the Darmanitan, the Kilowattrel, the Duraludon, the Hatterene, the Mega Absol, and the Glaceon. Like I said, I can definitely see Hitmonchan easy replacing any one of those mons. Same with Tentacruel, and even arguably Hippowdon. But I feel pretty confident that Hippowdon and Go-Go are not showing up. So let's go over the team that we're going off with this week. We're kicking it off with Norberto. When I look at this team, I look at the first one I saw on my team, and I think Norberto just fit the bill. We are going with Dragon Dance, Earthquake, Iron Tail, and Roost. With Shadow Shield as our ability, again, if I had Dragon's Maul, I would go Dragon's Maul in a heartbeat and replace Iron Tail with Earthquake because I think I can be able to be the Hatterene without it. But I want to have Iron Tail just as a safety net potentially if need be. Like obviously, that could be something like a sub roost D dance variation, but then I can't really do anything else. Now, obviously, this set also doesn't really make any. Actually, the set doesn't really make any sense because you can't touch Kilowattrel. What am I? Actually, you know what? Let's just go. Let's just go drag. Let's just go drag. Let's just go. Well, just as a safe brain, safe brain. So yeah, that actually just caught that because that actually does not. That literally does not. That makes not no sense for that set. I gotta caught myself. But anyways, we're Dragon Age, Earthquake, Dragoncolt, and Roost. We're pretty much enough speed to outspeed the Darmanitan. Rustin's max attack and Rustin to defense. He can hit a little bit here and there. Lumps it with Roost. It helps keep the Shadow Shield potentially full as healthy as it could possibly be outside of Scarfers. But once this thing starts dancing, there's no counterplay to this Pokemon. If his only Scarfer is going to be Darm, which I think he's going to most likely be, he can't really beat this Pokemon. This Pokemon outside of it can just offensively pressure. Like Duraludon is going to be forced to have to be a check to this Pokemon with the Eviline being like a very good defensive variation. But if I can get a D answer up to two up there going, this Pokemon actually starts steam rolling, especially with that soft sand and booster Earthquake, where outside of Kilowattrel, there is no mon that really wants to take this. Even the fluffy freaking Hippowdon doesn't really want to take that much damage from this thing when it has to check some of the other things. So feeling really good about this Flygon set. Coming up next is one of our star captains, obviously, in Lycanroc Dusk here. Now, I am taking a massive risk with this build. This build is to outspeed, I believe, a max speed Glaceon, and it outspeeds a max speed Duraludon, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. Now, this is very risky, but here's the reason why I am going with this risk. This is because if he is Scarf on that Duraludon, then he can't do much with this set. If he's not scarfed on this Duraludon, this Mon single-handedly wins the game with the Swords Dance. I have enough attack investment to where I guarantee at +2 Oko Kilowattrel, Oko Darmanitan, and Oko a freaking Mega Absol with a Cell Block. Psychic Fang strictly there just in case the Hitmonchan is there and also helps to deal with Tentacruel. And this close combat is strictly there just for the Duraludon. I actually am thinking now to myself that I'm going to actually be the Chople Berry just to be safe. And if the Berry was to play, then you know what? I have to hate myself for it. But we're gonna go with this. I really hope and pray that this is gonna be a good switch up here. But we're adamant to hit insanely hard. We for the rest of Spadef, so we kind of take a hit or two better maybe, or just make sure we can guarantee live a hit or something. Basically, this thing is if it gets a sword stance up, it is here to just click buttons. Now, obviously, against the Hatterene, we can't do entirely too much to it, and we can't really hit it hard. But we should, in theory, always be able to just about two-shot most variants of Hatterene, even though there is depth with Celerock. And obviously, going with Psychic Fangs can help break screens, which is a really nice option there too. So I had to be a little careful with my Lycanroc, but for the most part, it should. If he's bringing the team I expect him to bring, this thing will literally just destroy his entire roster, which is really, really great. And I'm really hoping that we can pick up a sweep with Lycanroc does. I feel like we can do it, man. I've just been having a hard time trying to pull it off. But making the debut is the other two members that didn't get a chance to show up last week, and that is going to be Low Kicks, which I actually am not going to name him Pablo anymore because that's obviously the Dawn, the Dawn, Mephisto's nickname. And plus, I wanted to show off my name. I like Pinchopper. Pinchopper is also a Yu-Gi-Oh reference, by the way, with Weavile, what? Weevil. Oh my god! If you guys didn't know, I like this name for him. I think it's like the perfect name for him. We are going with the Dark Aura ability. We're going Adamant Nature. We are running outspeed a Glaceon at max speed. We feel the rest in Spadef to be able to take like what maybe a hit, maybe two if we're lucky. I think we can actually take at least one fairy move uninvested for the Herdarine. But we're running Dark Aura with the black glasses because you really look at my man's team. He has no good switch into Dark. There is no fairy type on this team. And even the fighting type does not want to take a hit like this. Like at +2, this thing is going to do a massive chunk to a Hitmonchan. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it does nearly 50% with an item. Knockoff plus sucker pretty much just everything. Axe kick is strictly there for the Duraludon, and it can hit just about everything else. But legit, I'm just clicking dark moves in this matchup. Low kicks does insanely well here, and I'm really hoping that we can get some power points in here. But really want to try low kicks again, so hopefully we're doing well with this thing. Up next, this is a very risky set, and I'm hoping I am not going to regret making this my decision here. But we're going with a subcom mind variation of Jolteon this week. I was thinking of going with like agility with Thunderbolt Hyper Voice, and then maybe Allurant Voice, maybe Calm Mind, maybe Sub, who knows? But I was kind of thinking of a lot of variations here, and I went with the Sub Calm Mind build because I can outspeed literally everything on my opponent's roster and not care. Now, as you can see by my investment, I'm very much risking faith here. The plan on this is this. The Kilowattrel never stays in an army. It never does. Plus, more than likely, if I don't get a Calm Mind off, the Absol is almost always forced to go for the knockoff versus the sucker, go for the sucker punch over the knockoff. Now, he could still make the knockoff play knowing that he lives with Thunderbolts from me. He could definitely make the knockoff play. I am definitely taking a massive risk not running enough speed to outspeed Absol, and I might make a change to that last second. But I think this is a set that really does good. I want my Mon to hit insanely hard this game because Bolt Beam has no resistance on my opponent's roster. Bolt Beam is pretty much the freest combo I can ever hit into my opponent, and he can't really stop much of it. This is definitely a potential win con, along with the like pretty much every Pokemon on our team is a potential win con, except the last two. Like these first four are breakers to win cons, and the other ones can just do it just about anything I really want them to. And speaking of that, making his other debut this week is going to be Patrick, the Starmie here, rocking out with the Primordial Sea. We are actually rocking enough speed to make sure we're faster than Dharma +1. I do not expect him to run Scarf and that Kilowattrel, like I said. This set is kind of forced. Basically, I wanted to be able to be scarfed this game, to be honest with you, but knowing that there's going to be airlock from the one guy, I felt like there was no reason to be it. We're actually going to rock with the Colorberry, where we can hopefully, and I pray that we can be able to either beat or if we ever see a Surf is probably a role to knock out any variations of Absol or having like Neuroforce in this matchup would be really good here. Like no lie, Neuroforce would be very good here. But at the same time, I don't know if I feel confident enough with it. I like Primordial C. It's not bad. Especially if we get rid of the one that has airlock. We have constant surf damage that's guaranteed boosted, and he has no real counterpoint to it. With a besides a go-go and most likely a Tentacruel and a Duraludon, and only one of those really can beat this in 1v1, in my honest opinion. So I'm hoping and praying this set pays off. We're at Dazzling just there for the Duraludon, but Surf into Dazzling should hopefully do me a lot of damage to it. And the good news is that he is always going to have to be fearing that this thing could be potential choice Scarf, which is really great. But once he thinks about what could be potential choice Scarf and not, that definitely could be a thing he has to be on the lookout for. Obviously, if he knows his airlock goes first before my promotion, he'll know I'm not Scarf, which is definitely a bad sign for us. But regardless, I definitely think it's going to be something that he is going to have to be respectful of. And last but not least, making its return after God knows how long, I think like 3 weeks, maybe two. We have Galarian Weezing coming back with a Prankster, standard fully special defensive set. We are Pain Split plus Toxic and Dual Stab. Dual Stab actually was kind of pretty free in this matchup for the most part outside of Tentacruel, but it really didn't have anything else I really wanted. Toxic just there to spread Toxic around and just kind of weaken things down if we possibly can. Obviously, this will not work on the Absol, but we can actually take on Absol unless he doesn't have psychic coverage for us. If he doesn't have psychic coverage for us, that I know he does get, we can actually beat that thing 1v1, which is really, really good for us here. Strange Team, obviously, you get confusion chances is really good. You can potentially force swap outs there. And then you can go for things like Sludge Bomb and switch outs as well. So overall, I felt this was a nice neutral mon to bring. I really didn't know what else I really wanted to bring. There was obviously some variations of Fortress I could have brought, but I don't think it would have really helped me in the end. There was obviously some merit to me. I wasn't even thinking of considering about Magmar again. I low key was thinking about bringing Magmar again, but I didn't really think Magmar did a lot here. In Torn, I also really considered, but it just kind of was really tough to fit Torn on what I wanted to do. Otherwise, it'd be Scarf, Specs, maybe a Berry, and then try to go from there. But overall, I just think maybe it wasn't as worth as I wanted to, but who knows? But with that though, that's gonna be the team that we're rocking out for week 4. Like I said, it's win out or go home basically. So I'm hoping we pick up a win this week. I think I've built a really good team for this week. And like I said, guys, my prep and my predictions have been really, really good. I just don't go through with some stuff. And sometimes that costs me. And sometimes I didn't go with the bond that I should have went with, and it cost me. So here's hoping there's no regrets on what we bring, and we can just pick up a W. I really need to win. We're on a 10-game losing streak, and I really don't want it to be 11. I really don't. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will see you guys for game day. Peace.